Okay, all right, everybody. Today we're going to talk about how to give helpful feedback. And I'm assuming you've watched the previous 5 or 6 videos, or some of them, where we talked about how to use storytelling to make your essays stand out, and how to get to that barely functioning first draft, which is like that car you can barely drive off the junkyard. And the first quote, I love this, it's not really a direct quote, but I heard it from Naylor Hawkinson, a science fiction writer. Your task during workshops is to help the writer write the essay they want to write the way they want to write it. So the workshop setting, what we mean by that is, and what I love about Next Step Inbound's model, is you have groups of students, of writers and readers together, it might be 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, and everyone's reading each other's essays and giving this feedback. So you'll learn how other people are interpreting your essay, whether they agree with it or not. It's really important to know how other people are reading what you're putting down. And then you're also going to get practice providing feedback to others, which will also help you kind of provide feedback to yourself when you're going over your own work. So these are some general notes. First of all, read the essay twice. First one through, you're like, okay, this is what the author is kind of saying thematically, right? That's the content. That's like, I believe in, or I'm trying to help climate change, whatever. And the second is you're going to read it a little more slowly and be like, okay, look for tense, look for grammar, look for whatever, the craft points, the storytelling, right? Kind of start breaking it down into the form, the what, so what, now what, structuring, and notice stuff like that. Point out what is and isn't working. Okay, we can't just say everything is great because it's not going to be, and they need to know that. But remember that it's not going to do much good if you come across as abrasive or if you're not respectful.
Respect. R-E-S-P-C-T. Find out what it means to me.
Everyone's experience is valid, okay? And that's just something I have to keep reminding myself. We all have to keep reminding ourselves. Everybody has their biases. So when you come in and someone says, all drill instructors are you might disagree with that, and that might be a generality that's not super useful to the essay, but it's not up to you to say, I disagree with this. It's up to you to say, help that person build that point in a way that conveys their personal experience and what they're actually trying to say. Say what you like and what you would like. That's the title of this thing. I think that's the absolutely most useful piece of advice. I will bold this here as we're recording just to, accentuate that. Steve Jobs. So it's just, look, obviously say what you like is easy. Hey, this is great. This is whatever. But in the kind of like negative thing, instead of saying like, I don't like this or this is not working, say like, hey, I would like more clarity here. Or I would like more details here. I would like to see an explanation here. And I'll give some examples of that. And finally, the goal of workshopping is to make the writer excited to return to their work. And you do that effectively by following these principles. So these are what is good for the writer to know. Breaks in continuity, that's in sentences, in paragraphs, in structure, in maybe again, the author starts by saying like all drill instructors are assholes, but then talks about this some family experience. Like, well, these might be 2 really good separate essays. Those are good things to know. Changes in tense and tone. So if you start like with a story, like, hey, so there I was doing this and this, and then it goes to present tense or whatever, you'll see. Unclear vocabulary. This is really important to note, both from service member to service member, because if you're Marine infantry and your reader is Air Force aviation, they might not have the same terms for things. So even inter-service, there's differences in vocabulary, but more so if you imagine a civilian reading your work. And that's probably the most important part. So note when someone says like acronyms, like I went to BUDS. Well, even some Navy people don't know that BUDS stands for Basic Underwater Demolition and SEAL Training, right? So if you just assume that people know the acronyms, that can be to your disadvantage. Generalities or biases. So that's again like something like all drill instructors are like, these things can be like, they can have truth in your personal experience, or I guess in the context of feedback. you can point out that, hey, whatever the truth is in your personal experience, I'd like to see more about that or focus on that. Because, again, every experience is valid. You don't want to say, don't say that. If some veterans coming and saying like anti-war, anti-military, they have every right to say that. It's your job to help them make what they want to say, make it personal, make it compelling, and make it effective. Say minor grammatical edits for later drafts. Okay, and that's just because if you do it on the first draft, a lot is probably going to change, and it's just wasted effort. Unless it's just so egregious you can't even understand what people are saying. That's obvious. And this is just a little kind of tidbit for myself. It applies for workshopping essays and stories and poems. Sometimes this will happen. You will read one and be like, this doesn't make sense, or this is bullshit, or I don't agree with any of this. It'll just grind at your spine, and you'll be like, fuck this, I don't like anything about this. When you find that, it helps me sometimes to start out by saying, because you're going to have the document, whatever format you use in Google Docs or download a Word or whatever, and you're going to comment on it. It's probably not going to be live. You're going to comment on it, then turn it in, and then maybe have a live discussion about it. So when you're doing those commenting, start with the things that really bother you the most. And obviously follow the principles. Say what you would like, right? But sometimes I find that if I start by like just getting all those things out of the way, like this is not clear, or I'm not sure I understand this, then I can go back and see like, okay, well, if I try really hard, I can say that I do like this sentence or this verb usage, or they use this adjective creatively, or they really describe this scene well. Okay, so that's just a little personal thing that I found helps me. Useful phrases. I'm not going to read all these out, but this is just kind of things that you can say, things that you can start your comments with that will help you when you're about to say like, this is bull, or I don't agree with this, or I don't like this. No one cares what you do or don't like, right? This is not, you're not the admissions officer. It's not your place to say, I don't like this, but it's really, really useful to say, I don't understand this. I would like more clarity here. Or this comes across as racist, sexist, homophobic because, in my experience or my interpretation of this is. That's really useful when the writer starts understanding how other people are interpreting what they're putting down. And of course, don't forget to say, things that you really like, right? This is incredible. This is amazing. This captures, if someone like kind of tells this story that illustrates something that resonates with you, tell them that. That's super important. If you can have 5 paragraphs of essay that just miss the ball, but there's, what did I say, miss the ball? I don't know American. Okay, but there's 3 sentences that just do this really compelling story. Tell them, just focus on that. Tell them write 5 comments on how amazing that is. And then, sure, point out the other things that don't work. Okay. And when things are funny, tell them that. If you watch I think it was in the first video, we had this little mini essay about this guy in SEAL training who was running, doing something with his team, and one of his teammates shit his pants, and they had to mess something up so they could get punished and go to the surf and wash off, right? I literally laughed out loud the first time I read that. And some essays will be like that. And please tell the author when they are. Because, man, don't try to be funny, because it never works if you are, if you try. But if you actually have a funny story, that's great. Okay, and of course, we have a sample to work on, and I'll just give a couple examples of how I would comment on some things. Okay, so this is another sample short essay. It's a Stanford prompt, and yeah, I have a lot of Stanford prompts because that's who my classmates are, and so that's what I have access to. And as we go on, I'll have access to more essays from more schools. So, here's the prompt. Provide details about the change in progressions in secondary school. Again, this guy was a transfer student, so that's why he has this prompt. But we're just going to focus on, feel free. I think we'll have this on the website, but it's really not about reading and analyzing this essay now. I'm just going to give some examples of comments. So I've read this before. If you want, pause, read through it. Okay. So the first thing is, I really like how this essay starts. At the age of 16, my parents dual enrolled me at St. John's River Community College. And even without, or in the what, so what, now what model, look, this is a what, right? So we have this establishment of this personal detail that is very detailed, right? Dual enrolled at 16 at a community college, right? And we get this sense that this is going to play into the later essay. So we're placed in the narrative. Okay, so yeah, I would say great intro, great starting sentence. So now here I would say 2 sentences start with as. Consider transitioning, God, I can't type, differently, okay? And then there's another thing I really like here. And I highlighted it here. I realized soon after graduation that the path of a motorcycle mechanic was not best for me. And what I think is really cool about this, that notice he doesn't say, I'm not going to comment on it, but notice he doesn't say, I didn't want to be a motorcycle mechanic, or he didn't say anything derogatory, which would be really easy to do, right? He just said, it wasn't for me. So I enlisted in the Navy as an avionics technician. So for this, and this is, I'm getting really nitpicky here. Again, this was a successful essay, and I just want to give some examples of comments. So here I might say, I struggled to follow the sequence of big words here. It's not necessarily true. It's just an example of, not saying this sucked, but maybe there's something that can be worked on here. Therefore, and then I like to end positively, so I would say, nice use of what, so what, now what. All right, so it's generally nice to have this kind of even ratio of things you like and things that you're suggesting for improvement. And notice that these are suggestions or considerations. Again, so with that in mind, good luck with your first workshop experience. I think it'll be incredible. And we'll see you with the next video on how to use the feedback you get from workshop to revise your essay.